How do you get rid of tired, sad-looking eyes permanently? Let's review periorbital rejuvenation on today's episode of Aesthetic Minutes. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Aesthetic Minutes Clinical Vignettes. On today's case, we have a 65-year-old female tired of looking tired. She wants to improve the appearance of the upper eyelids as well as to erase the look of fatigue from the lower eyelids. Aging of the region around the eyes, referred to as periorbital aging, has perhaps the most significant impact on the appearance of an individual, with even a slight amount of excess skin or wrinkles making one look not only aged, but also sad and fatigued. Let's examine the different aspects contributing to the periorbital aging in this patient by looking at the brow, upper eyelid, lower eyelid, and cheek. In this patient, there is evidence of brow ptosis or descent of the brows, which in this patient results in mild flattening of the brow and loss of definition of the upper eyelid. However, despite this, the brow is still above the orbital rim, meaning that the issue is mild and thus not yet a priority in this patient. In contrast, the upper eyelid shows severe aging, with the presence of significant eyelid skin excess known as dermatochalasis. Upper eyelid dermatochalasis can be caused by true age-related excess of eyelid skin, known as primary dermatochalasis, or due to excess skin resulting from sagging of the brows, known as secondary dermatochalasis. In this patient, both primary and secondary components are present, though the primary component is the most significant. Treatment of primary dermatochalasis of the upper eyelids is easily accomplished with an upper blepharoplasty. In an upper blepharoplasty, the surgeon outlines and removes the excess upper eyelid skin as well as any excess fat from the upper eyelid. The upper blepharoplasty incision is hidden in the upper eyelid fold known as the supratarsal crease and is typically imperceptible by as early as 4 weeks post-op. The upper blepharoplasty can be done under local anesthesia in less than 1 hour and comes with a short recovery period. This makes it one of the most favorable cosmetic procedures in all of plastic surgery. The lower eyelid shows the most severe degree of aging, with the presence of severe lower eyelid bags due to the gradual weakening and distension of the lower eyelid structure, which allows the fat within the eye socket or orbit to slowly protrude outwards. This structure of the eyelid is composed of the orbicularis oculi muscle, which is a major eyelid squinting muscle, as well as the underlying fibrous support network composed of the orbital septum, tarsal plate, orbicularis retaining ligament, and medial and lateral canthal tendons. As the eyelid ages, this fibromuscular structure loses its strength and begins to distend, allowing the fat within the orbit to push out, a process known as pseudoherniation of orbital fat. Because the orbicularis retaining ligament prevents the fat from spreading downwards, the fat pads instead push out and roll over the ligament, creating the lower eyelid folds that we call the dark circles. The dark circles of the lower eyelid have distinct regions, with the inner portion known as the Nasojugal fold or tear trough, and the outer portion called the Palpebromalar fold. When surgeons correct the lower lid bags, what they are essentially targeting are the dark circles, with the goal of creating a seamless transition between the lower lid and the cheek. Although the prominent lower eyelid bags in this patient imply that there is a true excess of fat that should be removed, evaluation of the midface actually shows severe volume loss of the cheek. This volume loss occurs due to two major reasons. The first is the gradual erosion of the bone of the maxilla and orbital rims, which further weakens the already fragile fibromuscular support structure of the lower eyelid, causing the lower lid bags to become even more prominent. The second reason is the volume loss of the midface due to the atrophy of cheek fat and the sagging of the cheek tissues. The combination of loss of bone and fat, as well as the descent of the cheek, creates a large void right beneath the lower eyelid bag, making it even more noticeable. As a result, because of the significant loss of volume in the midface, the surgeon needs to actually preserve the excess fat of the lower lid and instead use it to fill in the cheek. In this patient, the management of the lower eyelid and cheek aging focused on a fat-preserving technique for the lower eyelid called a transconjunctival lower blepharoplasty with fat repositioning. In this procedure, the surgeon makes an incision inside the lower eyelid and approaches the lower lid fat by dissecting underneath the muscle and on top of the orbital septum. The surgeon then opens the septum, allowing the fat to herniate out, and then releases the orbicularis retaining ligament and repositions the fat to fill in the nasojugal fold and palpebromalar folds. The transconjunctival lower blepharoplasty with fat repositioning is very effective at addressing lower lid bags in most patients. However, in many cases, the volume loss of the cheek is just too great to be fully corrected with only eyelid fat. This is particularly true in this patient because of what is known as a negative orbital vector, a feature that becomes apparent upon sagittal evaluation of the orbit. In a person with a negative orbital vector, the plane of the inferior orbital rim and underlying maxilla sits behind the plane of the eyeball or globe. This common feature, seen in many patients, depends largely on genetics, but can make the correction of the lower eyelid dark circles more challenging. Patients with a negative vector have a greater disadvantage when it comes to the appearance of the lower eyelids, with many of these patients developing prominent dark circles even at a young age. Managing prominent lower eyelid bags in patients with a negative vector requires that additional volume be added to the midface, with several options available, the alloplastic implant route or the gel filler route. The alloplastic implant option is designed for patients with a severe negative vector and bony deficiency of the maxilla. In this procedure, a curvilinear solid silicone implant is placed in the inner portion of the upper cheek on top of the bone to augment the tear trough or nasojugal region. The tear trough implant is a permanent, extremely cost-effective way to address the tear troughs in patients in whom the main issue is a congenital lack of maxillary bone projection. However, if the issue is mild, a non-surgical option also exists. In many patients, the inner portion of the upper maxilla can be projected by a simple, deep placement of gel fillers into the midface. In this procedure, injections of filler are placed directly through the skin down to the level of the bone, depositing the filler between the periosteum and the orbicularis oculi muscle. Hyaluronic acid fillers are currently the preferred material for the correction of tear troughs because of their versatility and reversibility, although fat grafting is another suitable option. Finally, the surgeon can also improve the volume of the upper midface by simply lifting a droopy cheek, especially if a facelift is already being considered. Lifting the midface can bring some of the cheek volume back up where it belongs and thus add more volume to the sunken midface. In this patient, a high smash facelift was performed at the same time as the lower eyelid surgery to help lift and support the cheek. In addition, further volume enhancement was achieved via the injection of hyaluronic acid filler into the nasojugal and palpebromalar folds several months postoperatively. Finally, a carbon dioxide laser skin resurfacing of the face was also performed to peel and rejuvenate the facial skin. If you want to learn more about the high smash or other facelift techniques, feel free to watch our video on that topic. This patient therefore underwent the following procedures: an upper blepharoplasty, a transconjunctival lower blepharoplasty with fat repositioning, a high smash facelift with an anterior platysmal plication, a fractional carbon dioxide laser skin resurfacing of the face, and hyaluronic acid gel filler injections to the palpebromalar and nasojugal folds. The procedure required approximately 6.5 hours of operative time, as well as 2 weeks of surgical downtime. The patient tolerated the procedure well and recovered without any issues. Here are this patient's results 5 months post-procedure.